Makima's end goal would simply doom humanity. Now, there will be spoilers for Makima's plan, but I'll make sure to word things properly so that just about anyone can watch this video, whether you've read the manga or not. But long story short, Makima wants to use the Chainsaw Devil to eradicate the world of devils. With this, she wants to get rid of war, hunger, death, etc. Basically, any negative thing that exists, she'll get rid of. However, she also really likes the Chainsaw Man, so whether or not that's her true goal is uncertain. And I could totally go into a video talking about the contrast between Makima and Denji if enough of you wanted it. But at the end of the day, regardless of her true motives, she'd probably still end up trying to rid the world of all of these horrible things. Basically, the reason why the Chainsaw Devil is so powerful is not because humanity fears it, but rather that devils fear it. It has a power that when the Chainsaw Man eats another devil, it basically seals them away along with whatever the concept they are based on with it. We never see this happen in the series, but for example, in the past, the War Devil had been partially eaten, and although people still understand the concept of war, there has never been a single war that has happened since. Another example is the Nazi Devil. Yes, that's a thing. And after the Chainsaw Man ate it, it had erased the concept of a Nazi from the minds of everyone alive. And Nazis, as far as humanity is concerned, had never existed. It is implied, however, that this is only a temporary removal, as the Bomb Devil says that she'll make the Chainsaw Man puke up the nuclear war weapons devil and return them. But at the end of the day, with the power of the Chainsaw Man, you can eradicate any and all evil from the world. But just what would happen if you did? So I want to go into a hypothetical, looking in 3 different ways. The first is the process. What happens while Makima takes out each of these devils? Then there's the result. The immediate result of what happens after she eradicates all devils. And then finally is the aftermath, meaning what happens after Makima dies. Let's begin with the process. As Makima eliminates the devils, absolute chaos would most likely ensue. Let's say she eats the gun devil. For a good period of time, crime rates around the world would likely skyrocket. Prison breaks, robberies, and other heinous crimes would likely happen now that the biggest opposing force to all of that happening, guns, would be gone. Now, I'm not saying there'd be riots everywhere, but people like extreme protesters would have less to fear. And especially criminals who potentially know how to craft makeshift weapons that can give them an edge over the police. Unless Makima did things methodically, which is entirely possible, erasing random things can impact society in very negative ways. Devils are created from things people fear. Cars, planes, boats, basically any form of transportation would eventually disappear. Trading would come to an immediate halt across the world, leaving people confused as to how they previously had done it. Remember, it erases their memories along with the thing itself, so people at trading posts would just be standing there going, "What? How did we transport this medicine across the ocean?" That leads us to the fear of medicine and doctors, and everything of the sort. Would Makima get rid of things like this? Because at the end of the day, why need doctors when you don't need death? If she gets rid of the death devil, then humans would be immortal. Well, specifically, they'd still be able to get injured and feel pain, unless she got rid of that devil too. But they simply won't die. People would then live till they're like 500 years old as shriveled up carrots. Then, of course, Makima would get rid of the aging devil to counter that. The point is, in the process of Makima's liberation of all fear and negativities in the world, it would be pretty chaotic for a while. She'd quite literally be playing God and just figuring things out as she goes for probably a while. Depending on what order you imagine she consumes the devils in, you can only imagine what potential chaos would ensue. But from here we go on to the next phase, the end result. After all the fine-tuning, it would probably feel very much like the utopia El Dorado in the book Candide by Voltaire. Meaning, metaphorically or maybe literally speaking, the roads would be filled with gold, sitting there for just anyone to take, and there would be no poverty, no suffering. All would be perfect, until she's no longer satisfied. After enough time, the new world would have new evils. If you don't think so, that's understandable. But if you think about it like this, even good things can be feared. And that's not me just saying that from a philosophical point of view or anything either. There are devils based on sea cucumbers, mussels, chicken, and even marshmallows. How does someone fear a marshmallow? If devils can turn into fears like those, even in a world like ours, then there surely will be more fears that'll be born and become stronger. Makima wants to create a perfect world, but perfect is subjective. In this context, her ideal world is one without any negativities. Right now, that means no war, famine, poverty, crime. But in a world without all of those, as I said before, there will be new problems that replace them. And so let's take this to the extreme. They would then have to be removed as well. But at the moment, I'm sure many of you are thinking, what kind of problems would a utopia even have? I mean, if we're thinking of things realistically, based on what I've set up, overpopulation would absolutely be a thing, unless you were to increase the planet's size. Somehow. And so because of the amount of things Makima would have gotten rid of, surely we wouldn't be able to build something like a rocket ship to expand our species amongst the stars. It would be questionable if even space existed at that point, since that's such a strong fear even in this world. Now, what's interesting is that this follows the self-fulfilling prophecy of what a utopia is in the first place. Utopia is derived from the Greek word otopos, and a pun of utopos. Sorry if the translation and pronunciation is incorrect, I don't speak ancient Greek, but topos means place, o means no, none, or nothing, and u means good. Put the words together and you get nowhere and a good place. That perfectly describes what a utopia is. It's a place that doesn't exist, unachievable in any reality, hence why it's nowhere. And of course, it's going to be a good place. But remember, utopia isn't derived from the good place, utopos. That's just the pun. What it truly comes from is nowhere, otopos. And this perfectly describes the conclusion to the so-called utopia. Makima creates an ideal world, and new problems will pop up. She rids of those problems, and new ones pop up, inevitably creating a new ideal world. She'll do this until she eradicates all fears. Scary oceans, deep space, humans. You don't think we'd be getting the pass, right? After enough time, a really long time, we arrive at the aftermath. Only 3 things would remain floating in an empty void. That would be Makima, alone with the one thing she loves in this existence, the chainsaw devil, Pochita. And, well, a bunch of chainsaws. The 2 of them would then live together in harmony until Pochita gets hungry.